Burn it all down and build it all up. I'm done with 1v1s. Let's get some more team tournament action on the channel. One and all, welcome back to the A4 action. We are back with more of Clearman's $1,000 Field of Blood tournament. That's right. This is, of course, something that's been organized by a member of the Vietnamese community to bring together everyone on an international scale. And, well, we've done that, most definitely, these two teams. West Side team, it's not just a full Taiwanese stack. It's a Taiwanese stack with a sprinkling of Swedish meatballs. Baltoon teaming up with a bunch of prominent Taiwanese players, and they are going to be facing off in the lower bracket already, up against the total dominant force of Japan. We've got Diakusi, Mizuumi, Popo, and AI playing for the Japanese. On the west side, it's going to be Knock Knock, CHB, K2J, and Baltoon. I'm familiar with all these guys except CHB. I think that might be someone who changed their name. In fact, let me double check that. We do need to add the score thing in as well, because I do have the list of names for that team. They're called the Rising Sun. AI, wait, no, sorry, not Rising Sun. We're looking at the other one, aren't we? We're looking at Ugly Cat. RTY. I think that's RTY, because the other member of this team, because they have 5 members submitted, is Warspite, and Warspite would just be called Warspite. But yeah, we have some fun ones coming up here, folks. A best of 3 elimination series, and we're kicking off on Mongolian Heights. Good start as well from HRE. Yeah, this is the other thing that was crazy to me. When I looked at the draft for this series, this is wild, guys. After everything we've seen in this $1,000 tournament so far, it's mind-boggling to me that HRE wasn't banned and Abbasids weren't banned. Both of these teams banned Mongols instead. That's crazy. And yeah, no one decided to ban Diakusi's Comfort Civ, and for good reason. I actually think Diakusi's English hasn't been able to do anything so far. I think the tempo of the games has been too fast, and the tension has been too far away from him. I've been very vocal about this. Like, English, I don't like the Council Hall build. I think in team games, unless you can justify it pressure onto you, Council Hall doesn't make much sense. And you're in a retracted position, right? So, like, imagine if instead of this, Diakusi had gone for an Abbey of Kings. And that Abbey of Kings could be healing the entire yellow HRE army right now. That's huge in what is essentially a giant melee mosh pit. It's a difference maker that actually the Taiwanese squad couldn't achieve. So yeah, missed opportunity there. Puppy said on the stream yesterday that Mongols is too strong in 4v4s. I think they are quite potent, yes, but I'd also say Abbasids are equally worrying. Abbasids look really, really good from what I've been seeing. But yes, for trade, they are kind of broken. And that does actually emphasize another issue. It's also why Abbasids get, like, ridiculous, although most people go Eco Wing. I do think trade, and this should be a big revelation. I hope the devs have been watching these tournament games and they're taking notes from it. Trade needs to be fundamentally, like, changed or heavily nerfed, bare minimum. Trading at the back corners with your teammate is way too lucrative. That needs to be fixed. It's so stupid the amount of games I've watched of team tournaments where all this central gold never gets touched. You could be like an hour plus into a game, still doesn't get touched. Why? Because all 4 players at that point have got marketplaces set up in the corners. That's not a good look for team games. That actually, like, heavily compromises their competitive value. I think even on a casual level, it makes it very tedious, right? Because I know someone's going to be like, well, that's nice for casuals, right? Because they just chill, they get to boom up. But I also think it makes the win less rewarding, or rather, should I say, the moments in the game become less rewarding, right? Because you do something and it counts for nothing. Because your opponent has got the safest trade possible. Like, what I want you guys to think about is why Highview is such a bad map with its terrible trade post positioning. And if we agree that that is the case to Highview, why can we not agree that trading with your teammates also causes the same issue? Oh yeah, I think it should be nerf trading with your own team. Like, I think trading with your own team should give half of what you get from going to a trade post. Maybe even less. You really need to, like, cripple it into the ground. I'm not talking about nerfing trade. I'm talking about nerfing trading with teammates. Just to emphasize that, chat. So, getting a little bit deeper into the feudal age now. The HRE players, funnily enough, are going to be the last to tech up. That's an unordinary sight. Historically, HRE are usually the ones rushing castle. But I think both these teams know. We've seen a few teams try to run HRE fast castle booms, and I don't think it is worth it. It very, very rarely has ever paid out. It's much better to use HRE as a pressure force either in Dark Age or Feudal Age. In fact, we're even going to have a game up on the channel soon that shows that in pristine fashion, where one HRE player was able to block out 3 enemy players on his own. If trading with a teammate should give resources, does now, but maybe take a little gold from the teammate supply. No, I just think like you don't need to get overly cute like you're taking from Pete to pay Paul. All you need to do is just make it a very bad trade rate. Because the whole point is that maps are meant to be, especially now, moving forward, being designed with trade posts more in mind so that it's balanced for the state of the game. What's the point in balancing trade post placements if you can just do it in the corner? It completely contradicts the idea. So, KJJ in the meantime has gone for the 4TC build. I wonder, do we happen to have another boy on 4TCs? No. Oh, Mizuumi went fishing, right? So yeah, it's kind of weird that he's not just inflating TCs already. But he can get away with it. The problem I do see in this game is like there's only so much value you get out of fishing, and fishing will eventually evaporate. This overall feels like a weaker play than what's being done here by KJ. KJ has longevity in his play. Mizuumi has spike. But I would argue it's not even spike, right? You're paying 75 wood for these fishing boats. You produce them every 30 seconds. A TC, you get a huge 35% discount, and then you get this discount on the villages, only paying 32 food each, and building them 66% quicker. Wait, 50% rather quicker than the fishing boats get built. It's kind of a no-brainer like that, right? I don't think you need to make it so you can't trade with your teammates. You just need to make it so bad that doing it feels like a last resort, right? The problem with trading team games is it's a first resort, not a last. Like, I'm actually checking the corners. I'm like, oh, look. Oh, there you go. Right? I was about to say, someone's going to set up a trade post already. Yeah, Popo has snuck out for his. All right, what do you think, guys? Who's going to win this one? Actually, I think this is maybe balanced enough that we can make a prediction still. I'll have to make it only a minute long, though. We'll remember to do that at the start of next game. Get your predictions in. Limit trades to X. Hate that idea. I don't like that idea at all. I think you should always try to rear on the end of like caution when introducing artificial limits on unit types. It makes sense for a few things, like the taxmen, for obvious reasons. But in the grand scheme of things, for a lot of things, it doesn't make sense. Like, what next? Do we limit the amount of fishing boats you can build? Should we limit the amount of spring ships you can build? Right? Like, it's a slippery slope. It begins with a good intent and ends with very silly things. I've seen that in games before. Camelot is just being a little bit annoying here, right? Like, this poke damage does hurt. Remember, AI is playing catch-up after aggroing. And oh my god, he has way too much food to play with here. It's kind of crazy as well. You'd think looking at this food that he has fishing, he doesn't. It's just all the gathering he's been doing. Kind of funny to think of the implications of mine work in Season 9, which is just around the corner now, guys. Like, if you think about the state of HRE in team games right now, where this Feudal Age or Dark Age into Feudal Age spim and aggro play looks really busted, imagine how it's going to look when you add in all pikes, the tech that gives +2 damage. Popper in the meantime is going to pop over to the Taiwanese backyard to see if we can do some damage, because we've got Green just rushing the age up. In fact, both H3 players, after being aggro parties, attacking. Baotun already went up to Castle Age, by the way. For good reason. He's not playing multi-TC. It's interesting, actually, because China not playing multi-TC, usually the playoff of Castle Rush is to play into the Temple. You don't really want to be going for the Temple when you've got an H3 teammate, because the only reasonable thing you could do there is then sling them to him, which means you're sacrificing your economy and getting nothing in return. So I imagine we're going to be seeing Lancer spam maybe coming down the line. And maybe the way that Baltoon could justify this is if he tries to sneak across it. Oh my god. When did this happen? Baltoon with the sneaky proxy base. Palace Guard already moving in. And Diakusi being a greedy boy here. He's going for the King's Palace build. Wow, what a timing as well. That explains the undermesh prepped. So Dive's going to come in. The villagers aren't here. They're building up the landmark right now, which means this could be a lot of out of time and a lot of dead villagers. A knock, about to knock at the door. Villagers will see him running away. Purple's going to give chase there. In the meantime, Baltoon needs to be scouting for this. He finds that the King's Palace gets revealed. Diakusi a little bit of panic there. He thought about pulling away for a second, but he has no choice here. He has to complete the landmark. So we'll get it up. We'll end up losing a few villagers, though, and there's not enough garrison room for all of them. In the meantime, the Knights have found the rest. So Diakusi getting picked to the bone here, down to 34 villagers. And it's going to get worse than that, folks. Now with the Knights already in position with the proxy base, which should now be becoming apparent to Diakusi, he's going to have overwhelming pressure up against him, and his teammates aren't helping. CHB is trying to play greed first. He's already got his own issues with Purple's now riding in. In the meantime, Pink is not participating. Mizuumi is just going Castle Age and playing TCs. And then finally, you've got this French player, Popo, who's way too far away to react to these plays. It takes the same time to get to Diakusi's base. Actually, more time than it would take for him to get to KJ's. This is ugly as well. AI, he just doesn't actually have the heavy maces coming through, right? I think it finally ticked in there, but the timing was awkward. Purple able to get away with it. In the meantime, Diakusi still able to do anything in his base. He has at least got the crossbow starting to creep out with the council hall, so that will stabilize him here. But this is just wave one, and the damage done definitely has added up, right? You can see when you look at the raw eco count, the West Side team is already 50 economy ahead. And yes, all pikes, the new tech coming for H3 in Season 9 has been nerfed from 3 to 2. It's still really good. You just might have to build more than one unit now to win a game as HRE. Asgard have also began to sneak out to other bases. Yeah, I don't like this play from Baltoon. The problem is the next two players are terrible for you to fight. HRE has decent movement speed and has heavy maces. They'll win. And then the pink player is going to have camel archers because that's just the Abbasid thing to do, right? So very difficult no matter which one of these bases you go to. And you don't want to be going to the French base either. I think that's why I was so taken aback by this Proxy Palace Guard play. Because to do Proxy Palace Guard against all but the English here is kind of weird. We have actually got a tech up on the way from Green. Green really hasn't been participating, right? He's just been focused on the greed. Did Teal play for relics in the end? I don't... Okay. Baltoon is actually now going for the relics. You know what would have been sick here is if he'd actually built a monastery here and gathered the nearby relics in this area. If they didn't know about the base, they will soon. It looks like Diakusi has revealed at the crossbows, though. Camel Archer's going to have a field day there. Remember, guys, camels do get double damage versus spears. And even against those men-at-arms, you can see the base damage is good. 13 damage striking into a unit that only has 4 ranged armor. We do have the tech up now on the way, so KJJ is soon to upgrade that. And, well, KJJ, he's loving life. He's already at 126 villages. That's everything he needs. Mizuumi, meanwhile, it might be showing as 100, but that number's a lie, folks. Those aren't all villagers. 18 of them are fishing boats. Veterancy already in for the camel archers, right? Now this is like ugly. Wait, what am I about? That's not veterancy. Sorry, he's going imp. Military wing is on the way for imp here. I was like getting ready to talk about the fight, and I was like, wait a second, these camels already look different. That's a fast veterancy. So KJJ is doing exactly what we were highlighting with the Abbasids and why I think they're kind of OP. It's insane. Like, this talk of Mongols being broken, but you look at Abbasids, how is that any better? I think the way you have to contest Abbasids is you have to have very aggressive civs and move fast. Ottomans is kind of an obvious one, but like, you know, if you want to play aggressive and fast, you're probably thinking multi-cav civs. The problem is there's diminishing returns there. If you play like French, Jeanne, and say Japanese, the camel debuff is still going to be a really big problem against an organized team. So it's not just a free win and a get out of jail free card against Abbasids. Camelot is also now just starting to raid on the fishing. Oh my god, this is so painful. And the archer ships are irrelevant here, folks. They have like no damage on them. In fact, they lose in this exchange. So defense is dead. Mizumi at risk of losing more economy. In the meantime, the backside, the knights have still been roaming around freely as no one walled in. The palace guard have hit into Mizumi's base while he's busy reacting to the knight raids. Looks like the proxy Raxes might finally get shut down, but the price is already adding up for Japan. They are now almost 100 economy behind. Things just going from worse to worse in this game. Even more losses. Mizumi, this is just difficult at this stage, right? Like, he's trying to play back creep gold, not working out. He's getting found everywhere. The difference between the two Abbasid players in this game is over 50. Yeah, it's kind of funny how much easier it is with a nice UI like this to track the info than it was in the 2v2 we just cast before this, right? And yeah, well, this is my warning, right? I don't think Abbasids benefit from going for fishing on this map at all. Shoreline fish just doesn't justify. And oh my god, the big chonkers are here. CHB has gone to the Carracks. Guys, Carracks are oppressive on Mongolian Heights. You just park one on each of the crossings, which, by the way, is very cost efficient on population for 4v4s. Because 4v4s only have 5 crossings, right? So if 2 players split the difference between them with the cost of the pop capital into Carracks, you can easily saturate every single crossing. Right now, it seems like it's mainly just on CHB to provide the entire bulk of the Navy. But if that's all he has to do for them to lock this game in, that's fine, right? Think about the state of the game. 3 players have been dominating Japan without CHB being present. If he can at least protect their side of the map while his teammates fully attack, this is in the bag. So there's going to be a redemption arc here. It's finally yellow and red go on the attack. His pass guard numbers do look good for Bouncing, so we'll be able to hold them back here. In the meantime, the raids from the Knights still adding up, and KJJ here as well. I mean, Camel Archers are trying to hunt for their targets, but the reaction is so slow. Diakusi, as soon as he starts to have a semblance of a recovered economy, he's once again being punished. This is getting ugly. If they can't do some significant damage to Baltoon, it's going to be all for nothing, right? And even if you do, this is now Song 2TC with a full granary transition. Baltoon is in a very comfortable position at this phase of the game. In fact, he's not too far off of being a point where he can go into Imperial himself. So how do you win this now if you're Japan? I think it's all about leveraging English, right? You need DQC to probably set up proxy bases in the center, stonewall his side of the map, and then try to like shove through on the west side. I think diving China is probably going to be the biggest mistake you can make, because what will happen with China is they will end up building into a Great Wall Gatehouse that has Nesta Bees. They will probably build into Nesta Bees as well eventually, because he's going to go back for the Yuan Dynasty. So this is kind of the hardest way to dent, whereas if you play onto the west side of a proxy base, you're far, far away from that AoE damage that's lethal in these type of games. Also, please, just stonewall in general. This is brutal. It's the difference, right? With the pace that was set by the Taiwanese stack, they already now have the room to wall safely. Meanwhile, when you look at the Japanese players, they've got a few palisades, and they don't even have them across map. Yeah, I also just think this is another value point of playing into multi-TC over fishing. Mizumi eventually got up to free TC, but that was heavily delayed compared to KJJ. KJJ had so many TCs, he had so many villagers coming, he reached a convergence point where he could send them out to wall much quicker. In fact, you can see the difference it makes on the map here. AI for Team Japan is at least going to be finding his way into the H4, but I have a feeling it's going to be one H4 guy versus 4 H4 guys here. We're reaching that point. Man, I think Japan needs to kind of change the plan. The problem I've had when I've been watching the Japanese so far in this tournament is they've adhered to the same strategy, which is fine if it works, but if not, you need to alter. And the same strategy is give Diakusi English and then try to survive. Right? Like, which I had to chuckle a bit because for anyone who knows Diakusi, that is pretty much his game strategy in 1v1. He plays English all the time. He has like 1,500 games on them. He'll build multi-TC and hunker down and try to beat you in the late game. He's one of those players. He's divine DFP from the East, right? So with that in mind, in a team setting, that's very difficult to do. Because people will just not even pressure you. They'll eliminate one of your teammates knowing you won't help them, and then it's a 3v4. In this game, they understand that Diakusi, after a certain point, was going to be hard to dive, so what do? They just ignore him now. They might send in a few troops because the Palace Guard are being spawned there, but other than that, they're now wailing on pink, yellow, and orange. Orange in particular now in quite the pickle here. Popo's been reduced down to, what, 30 military in this game. Pink's going to try to intercept. That is going to force the reaction. And remember, these are elite camel archers with the incendiary arrows, so a fight that, despite the numbers, will not actually favor Pink. Oh my goodness. Yeah, the damage difference here. 240 HP versus 175. And then on top of that, we're talking about 16 damage versus 20. Looks like he will actually be able to somehow hold this. I'm a little bit surprised by that. Wait, were the horsemen attacking the villagers? I mean, it's eco damage, right? But I think you want those horsemen stabbing into camel archers. So credit to him. I actually think Mizumi done a lot better than I was expecting there. However, behind this, the players that are benefiting is once again Taiwan. It's going to be 4 players in Age 4. Red Palace now on the way, next to a green keep. Mizumi, by some miracle, has found the resources to go into Imperial Age himself. Popo's kind of hard stuck though, guys. I mean, he could try to rush the Age, but it's going to take a while to really exploit that value. Diakusi's probably going to try to rush the Age because he's not expending resources onto army that much, right? Like, he's burnt down this proxy base, congrats, but he hasn't come out into the wider sphere of the game yet. Which has led to a lot of these 2v1s. Hand Cannoneers now just trying to hold things here. It's mass crossbows from Baltin. So no Hand Cannoneer switch yet, but I imagine that's going to be on the way. Remember, we're approaching the late phase of the game where the highlight points are basically going to be English and Chinese. Chinese because of the better Hand Cannoneers. English because, of course, they do have the range to outrange everything, but also they can outgun them with the attack speed. But right now, I'm kind of seeing a bad way for Japan in that the 2 players that matter most now in the late game to wake up, one of them is present, the other is trying to be, but fundamentally is slow and still locked into one position. Another big deal here, of course, is going to be that Baltoon can go for Yuan. He has now got it, right? So these Hand Cannoneers are able to out-mobilize you. Don't get me started with the Palace Guard. Like, that's kind of interesting, right? Baltoon could have played this one of 2 ways. He could just go mass Hand Cannoneers, or he could go mass Palace Guard. Because when the walls aren't up, when there's no stone walls for the East Side team, the Palace Guard are the easiest way to win the game. This carrot defense. Believe it or not, Green does in fact have land forces. You just wouldn't really believe it when you look up and see that he has 11 carracks. Reminder, folks, these things cost 5 population each. So right now, over a quarter of his population is into carracks. Could you imagine having a Palace of Swabia but being locked to like 114 villages? He's probably going to have to delete some of those villages or carracks, right? Because he just can't have a big land army otherwise. Well, that he can have, though, is going to be moving in. And you are seeing that correctly, folks. Camel support does work for allies. Please tell me Pink got that. We have a problem, guys. We have a really big problem here. In Imp, with mass blob fights and semi-infantry, semi-cav comp, military wing is the winner. Right? The extra health boot camp can be great if you ever transition to infantry, but the more important thing is the camel support for your allies. For Mizumi, he'd be enabling both Atri and English. On the other side, KJJ is able to enable Chinese and HRE. Oh my god. An overwhelming difference in these fights that we're going to start seeing now. For the time being, though, they do have the blob to defend. I think actually what our West Side team needs is they need to just clump their troops together and go for a big push. Instead, it looks like they're just trying to branch out and continue raiding. Oh, wait, whoa, hold up. English main alert. English main denied. I cannot believe that. Diakusi, renowned for his late game English. Good luck getting there. Oh my god. Was that 98% complete and gets denied by Baltin. Even forces the cancel. A retreat towards the shoreline here. Remember, he has got the character to assist. Needs to be careful with the hand cannoneers, but also has the walls nearby to hop on top of. While all this is happening, though, check what's happening across the map. KJJ, once again, riding to the backside here with camel handling and horsemen. The quickest way to rush across the map. Trade now being intercepted. That's going to build the eco lead even bigger. Important as well, considering the comps are gold heavy, right? Hand cannoneers, men at arms, knights, all require large quantities of gold. Diakusi is going to try for it again. Really? I mean, his allies are here, right? So in theory, he gets away with this. He should. What are the chances that Baltoon... What really are the... Statistically, what is the probability that Baltoon just... Nah, no. It's fine. These raids. And you're correct to look at KJ. He's saving up for a wonder. So the good news, at least, for Japanese, is they did get to age 4 with Diakusi. So it's going to be a full imp versus full imp. By some miracle, Baltoon never checked that gold again. I think he got baited, right? Because there was an opening over here. Kind of unfortunate, actually, for him. If he'd seen that, it would have been easy peasy GG. Instead, KJJ. It's time for it to start. CHB is going to be the builder. Needs to get the gold together, so they just slung a lot across, but gold is the one thing he still needs here. How many relics did we get for CHB in the end? 4. Was it 4? That feels so underwhelming. Wait, what? Hello? Reminder that both Baltoon and CHB have access to monks. Somehow this went unnoticed. What the f... Aesthetically, this is very pleasing. What happened there? What? I mean, I'd understand if there was a relic there before. I don't think there was, though. Wait, no, guys, this is a big brain trap. The whole idea is you hold this choke point, your enemies clamber in, and then you surround them through the gates. It's a bait and switch. We figured it out. Diakusi needs to start helping this center push. Wait, what? Sorry about that, guys. I just realized what happened there. At some point, we hit the insert key. My brain... Okay, so I wouldn't mind using the insert key. The problem is the mini-map colors don't change. So it gets very confusing. But one is on the way. It's happening. The Great Pass of Flensburg is upon us. You know, they should have called it the Flemsburg, because whenever you build this, it feels like you're spitting on your opponent. Looks like there was a keep drop attempt over here. Baltoon is going to get denied there, though, so they'll be able to take that area back. Important that they do not lose access to this trade. I mean, even without them losing access to it, right, it still cost them dearly. I can't imagine just how many workers have died in this game so far. Well over a 100 eco lead, closer to a 150 eco lead for the Taiwanese stack. Now in 14 minutes, they would have their victory. Could it be even sooner? We're going to have to find out. Red Palace looking like it's going to crumble, so Knock may lose his full defense here. CHB, he does still have those carrots. More hand cannons also on the way. And the camel support really does matter here. When you're spamming mass camel archers, it adds up. It gives that sustain. Every little truly does count. Love the fact that we've got camel riders coming out from KJ. Camel riders counters pretty much everything the enemy team's doing right now. Diver's going to come in the meantime. Knock. Able to slow them down for the moment. They're going to need to reinforce this choke point before they start to flood through. I do think there could be a lot more full production from the West Side team, right? That's maybe the weak point here is some of these units take a very long time to arrive. Wait, guys, why don't we just build demos? Like, no cap. Where are the demo players? This is begging for an explosion. If CHB realizes it, cancels the carrots, and just builds 4 demos, he could have wiped the camels. Might still get to wipe them without it, though. Able to push them back past the threshold here. In the meantime, Baotoon was not a part of this. Instead, he's pushing cross-map. Blocks on the sacred site. This is the thing, though, right? I think in the minds of the Japanese, if they cannot get the capture of the sacred sites before the 10-minute mark, breaking into this base doesn't seem very feasible. Carrots paying off huge. They've done a decent job here. One funny part to me is the fact that he didn't get chemistry, right? Because chemistry does work with carrots, from what I recall. Wait, am I misremembering that? I might be misremembering that. Oh my god, dude. It's because we never see carrots because they're considered a meme ship. But he hasn't got gunpowder tech. I'm pretty sure chem works with them. I have to double check. Definitely works with culverins, but they're classified as ranged, whereas these guys are siege. Wait, hand cannons are now trying to answer that out. So Yellow trading reasonably efficiently here. Has also got the trebuchet slaying these as they spawn. Are they able to gain enough ground, though? I feel like we reach this point and then things fall apart. It's almost like you can just see the difference in where the production is. Camel Archers have been doing a great job, but even with their mobility to reinforce, they're still running across map to do so. Yeah, I feel like this is where I have one of those classic rants about why full production is important. Pink doesn't have it, so he doesn't really have the push. When the Camel Archers start dying, they have to wait in between the assaults. It's really what is keeping the Taiwanese alive at this choke point. Funny part is Baotoon hasn't really been participating, right? He's been shoving on the east side himself, keeping DQC out of the mix. So hand cannon mass has built up. CHB lost a lot of the carracks, but enabled him to go up to close to 30 hand cannons, and now he's moving into the enemy side of the map. They've got plenty of troops to work with behind this, but apparently they see no point. DG gets schooled. The Japanese now on the verge of taking the knee. The question now is, can the Taiwanese deliver the killing blow? One game up and one away from keeping their dream alive. Pretty cool game overall. Love Baotoon's proxy base and the way they control the momentum, but I think you saw exactly what I'm talking about here. Trade is a problem. The moment it goes online like that, whoever has started to snowball a lead will continue to. It's so difficult to get in and make a difference. I think they have to change something. Map styles alone isn't enough to fix this issue because people will always find their way to the back corners to build more traders.